No. Okay, I think we're live. Let me double check. Okay, we're live. So let's go ahead and jump right in. All right, happy Tuesday, everyone. So we're doing a Black Business Highlight. We have Miss Johnson here with us. We're going to be talking to her about self-care and uncertain times. She's one of the speakers for our event that's taking place this Saturday for the BWAZ Heal Her Retreat. Um, Before we get started, we are down to, I think, the last maybe 5 tickets. So if you haven't purchased your tickets for the workshop happening that Saturday, I'm gonna be putting the link in the comments here. So make sure that you take care of that, because once the tickets are out, they're out. I don't have a secret stash anywhere. Once they're gone, they're gone. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to give you the floor, and I just want you to introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, and then after that, we're gonna go into what exactly you'll be talking about this Saturday.
Absolutely. Well, good evening, Queen Faye D. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here this evening and for the opportunity that you blessed me with to share a little bit about self care in uncertain times at the Heal Her retreat this weekend. And I'm really excited. My name is Tanishia Johnson. I am a spiritual life coach, transformational speaker, and all things women empowerment. That's the work that I do. I'm the founder and owner of Beyond This Moment Life Coaching and Business Consulting. I founded Beyond This Moment in 2013, originally to support women in their next, in terms of what their next step is in life and whatever it is that they were looking to accomplish. And so I started off more as a business coach and supporting women in what their steps were to what they felt they needed to do in their life. Many were related to career, relationship transitions, career transitions, family transitions. And so that's the work that I was engaged in. And then I shifted into spiritual life coaching because of my own spiritual journey, knowing that in order for us to implement anything, we cannot do it if we're not aligned mind, body, and spirit. And what I was finding is that the women I was working with were hitting up against a wall, and as some would say, fighting against themselves with what it was that needed to be their next, and saying they didn't know why they were procrastinating, they didn't know why they had this desire to kind of shut down when they were right at the cusp of something great. And
Mm-hmm.
what I was able to determine was that there, for myself, was that there were layers of healing or pathology connected to my family and other things that needed to be addressed. And so the work that I do now is to support women in being in alignment with their intentions, being in alignment with whatever it is they're seeking to accomplish, knowing that the business goal is important.
Mm-hmm.
What's more important is making sure that it's aligned with who we are. So the question I
Right.
always ask is, who are you? I
Mm-hmm.
live in Chandler, Arizona. One of my big jumps was relocating, as part of spiritual vision that I received, was relocating from the East Coast. So I'm from New York and relocated here, from Rochester, New York. Also grew up in the Bronx, New York, and decided that my husband and I decided this was going to be our leap, our jump. And so we've been here in Arizona, Chandler, Arizona, we just celebrated 2 years. And it's been an incredible journey. And it's really been a blessing to see the work that Black women of Arizona is doing, and your inception and intention around why you discovered this platform that we all needed.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for such a time as this, that I get to support women on their journey as I continue to support myself on this journey. It's never ending. We're infinite beings in our growth.
Right, right. So I want to jump in a little bit into self care in uncertain times and what that actually means. So I know we're going to be talking about this Saturday, but I want to, for anyone who's watching who hasn't purchased a ticket yet or doesn't understand what does self-care in uncertain times actually look like? What does it mean exactly?
Yes, yes. Well, ladies, the data is out, but it's what we already knew. We carried this pandemic on our back. That's the
Mm-hmm.
bottom line. All of the data speaks to it, and the shifts that we had to make as providers at home, providers in workspaces, providers for extended families. Some of us were taking care of Big Mama while we were at home, taking care of our own children, taking care of our nieces, our nephews, our parents, our children, our spouses, our partners. And so the reason why I created the workshop, Self-Care in Uncertain Times, and I have facilitated this workshop several times since the pandemic has started, is because women were looking at, what do I need to do to get out of this funk that I'm in, given what the pandemic is now teaching us? So for some of us, we learned areas of strength we didn't know existed. And
Mm-hmm.
the same on the other side of that, we also learned that it's important for us to lay and surrender to the vulnerability of the needs that we have for our own self-care. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's just like you hear so many times, we can't put the mask on an airplane if something were to happen on someone else. We have to put it on ourselves first and give ourselves that oxygen. So
Right.
self-care in uncertain times is a workshop I created where I go over the 8 areas of self-care. Sometimes we look at physical, we look at mental, and we look at emotional. There are actually 5 others, and actually there's really 12 others. I'll be covering 8, where we're going to talk about the real simplistic ways that you can look at attaining self-care and making it a daily practice. And it doesn't require money, it doesn't have to be hard, and it can be a lot of fun. Healing is not our purpose. Our purpose is to live our lives in a way that whatever is the measure of success for us, that we're working toward that. Healing is a part of that
Mm-hmm.
journey. It's not a destination, it's a journey. So as we're working through one thing in our lives, like this pandemic triggered a lot of things. It triggered my need for food safety because I grew up in the Bronx, New York, in the projects, and we were on welfare. So food conversations
Mm-hmm.
happen. This pandemic triggered a lot of things for us, for men as well, but definitely for women who have been on the front lines in so many other um, various pandemics that have happened, but specifically this one. This one
Mm-hmm.
right here is one where we're seeing a rise in depression of women. We're seeing a rise in women that I lost 2 women that I know transition to suicide over the course of the
Mm-hmm.
past 2 years. These were not, we put this stigma around how mental health looks. These
Mm-hmm.
are women who were successful, who were well known, who were incredible women, who a lot of us did not know was suffering in silence. Just like the
Right.
model who took her life, and
Mm-hmm.
everyone was surprised. But she shared publicly that she was struggling with
Mm-hmm.
depression. And so, self care in uncertain times is a workshop where I'll be going over, and we'll actually do an engaging activity right in that space where we're going to be looking at the 8 different areas of self care and how you can approach
Mm-hmm.
each one, including environmental self care. What I mean by that is, behind me, you'll see my plant. You may hear water, and that's my
Mm-hmm.
fountain. I'm very sensory sensitive. And so
Mm-hmm.
the small thing with even environmental self-care is me being aware that my environment feels good for me. So when I'm
Mm-hmm.
working on things for beyond this moment, and prior to working with clients, I have incense burning. I make sure I have candles that smell good. I have my plant next to me reminding me of the connection to nature. I love to hear the waterfall while I'm working because
Mm-hmm.
that brings me peace. And so this workshop is going to be very unique in touching on areas that we didn't even know that we needed to care for ourselves. And it's not just limited to mental, physical, and emotional. The other
Mm-hmm.
5 will support those 3, and I'll talk about those 3 as well. But I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
go into, with all those that are in attendance, different ways that you can get in self-care in those other important areas as well, including financial. Don't cringe. Financial is a is a trigger word for me as well.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
I am going to go over that part as well, and that's one of the 8 areas. And we're still in an uncertain time. When I created this workshop, it was for the time that we were really in the throes of being in lockdown, when we
Mm-hmm.
couldn't like engage with our friends and our family members, and people were getting a little frustrated with being at home with family members that they love. Relationships were severing with people that we love right at
Mm-hmm.
home. And my hope was that by the time a couple of years passed with doing this workshop, that we'd be on the other side of the pandemic. And
Mm-hmm.
we still are not. There's still a lot that we don't know. There's still a lot that has not even, we have not scratched the surface on what
Right.
uncertain times looks like. Look how that looks. Now there's monkeypox. Now there are cases of polio in New York.
Mm-hmm.
Now the pandemic has another variant, and the talk is that there are several more variants before collectively we're able to adjust to what COVID is going to look like as a part of our ongoing lives, and how we
Right.
need to adjust to that. And so this workshop is about not walking in fear. It's about
Mm-hmm.
walking into what is it that I need in this time that's uncertain? How do I go within in this uncertain time to ensure my emotional, physical, mental, financial, environmental, career wise, all of that
Mm-hmm.
safety, so that no matter what's happening out there, I'm centered with myself and knowing what I need to do to keep myself emotionally safe, and to know
Right.
that there is support available. That's what the
Right.
women can expect. They can expect it to be engaging. They can expect that I'm not going to lecture the entire time, that there'll be a moment that they can, journal around some questions and areas that they can explore on their own. They can expect to do an activity that's going to be enjoyable and fun, and also a way for them to get to know who they are on the other side of this uncertain time. And I think
Right.
we're just discovering that our strength, our vulnerability, our challenges, where we need to do the work. That work is the internal work that we need to
Mm-hmm.
do. And so I'm hoping that this workshop challenges, that it encourages, that it inspires, that it empowers, and that there's some creativity that is birthed or impregnates the women that will be in attendance. So if you haven't, get your tickets. There's only a few left, and it's going to be a powerful weekend. And I'm excited to bring forward this area of self-care, which is the theme focus for the Heal Her Retreat this year, the
Right.
inaugural Heal Her
You
Retreat. I'm
you
so
just
excited.
said so much, and I want to dive into a few things, not too much, because if you want to see her in action, you need to be there on Saturday. But there's a couple things that you touched up on, and I wanna dive into them just a little bit, because I think when a lot of times when people think self care, they're thinking, oh, getting facials and getting my nails done and getting massages, which, not saying that those things aren't important, but it's a little bit deeper than that. So when you mentioned your environment, and when you mentioned your finances, talk to me a little bit more about those two topics, because I don't think that's a topic that black women tend to think of when they think of self-care. So what does that look like exactly?
Yeah, and I think a big part of it for all the areas of self-care that I'll be going over, it's about creating boundaries. And
Mm-hmm.
so I create sensory boundaries in my environment, but I also have some boundaries that I had to specifically make sure that what can feel comfortable for me to do the work and be productive, and to not beat myself up internally if I'm not doing something. And so I don't believe in procrastination. I'll go into a little bit deeper, really, with that word, where it came from. That is really not a principle that I ascribe to. There's always a deeper meaning when we're delaying something. And so
Mm-hmm.
for me, I no longer beat myself up when I'm putting things off. And so part of the self-care, when I speak to the environmental self-care, is what does your home environment look like? What does your bedroom space look like, or where you're resting? And so I talk to a lot of women. My clients will say, I can't sleep. I'm having a tough time sleeping. And I say, you know what? Write down for me how your evening looked. They're like, well, I check my emails. I bring my laptop into bed. I may watch some TV while I'm answering emails. And then I'm able to support them in seeing how that particular habit, our bedroom is our sanctuary. We're not
Right.
supposed to be working in our bed. We're not supposed to be bringing in, like for me, I don't bring bills into my bedroom. I used to get the mail, whatever bill, I bring it into my bedroom. Everything has an energetic principle. And I
Right.
really believe that if I have a stack of bills in my environment, in my home space, in my bedroom, that on my headboard, which is where I used to put it, like, oh, I got to make sure I call about that. How can I rest at night when the last thing I looked at and went through was bills, or looked online, answering emails, or watching movies and shows that are so emotionally toxic? And let me be very clear. I love Mariska Hargitay. She is one of my favorites. I binge watch Law and Order SVU, but one of the home safety boundaries I had to put in place for myself was to not watch too much of that at night. It goes into your spirit. There's some areas of your subconscious that holds on to whatever it is that you left off with during the day. And so the environmental self-care, I speak to some things like that. It takes no money to look at your pattern of how your bedroom looks. And sometimes it's just, one client shared with me, oh, my room is a mess. I have clothes at the foot of my bed. Well, it's no wonder why you can't sleep, beloved.
Right.
No one, you can't sleep in mess. You can't sleep in chaos. You can't sleep when your mind is a mess. And so the self-care is to gently nudge us and trust spirit in what it is that we need when it comes to our environment. So for me, I don't bring work, like fun work, I bring into my bedroom. I'll do my blog for my website. I will put up and set up times that I want certain things to drop on. That's fun stuff for me because I'm looking at affirmations that I'm putting on my social media accounts.
Right.
But actually sitting down and creating content and sitting down and putting the framework together for what a client needs. Like, I can't do that in my bed anymore. I make sure I have a separate space to do that so that I can protect what's mine. And so this self-care workshop, specifically as it relates to environmental, I'm going to take a deeper dive in challenging us to look at what are we doing in our home environment. And when I speak to safety, I'm talking about safety even in relationships. There are certain things that I don't bring to my kids first thing in the morning. I used to. Why didn't you do this, and this? And now I'm very mindful because what we plant in our mind to someone, and even to first and foremost to ourselves, we hold on to that. And so that's one of the things that I'll talk about. Really, it's about creating boundaries. And many of us did not learn that. And I can tell you, for me, where it came from with always saying yes to a home project, telling my supervisor when I was working in this full-time space that was extremely busy that I will answer an email any time of night. I can tell you where that came from. That came from the lack of boundaries from being younger and being told, even when I didn't want to hug an adult, go and hug Uncle such and such. You better go ahead and hug this person. Go sit on your grandparents' lap. Go kiss that person. And so how do we learn the safety of boundaries in our lives when for many of us, when we're younger, we're taught to go against what spirit is telling us? I didn't like sloppy kisses on my face. And as much as I love my family, I was still kind of forced to do that. It was disrespectful to not acknowledge an adult in my family in a way that was hugging. And so I learned at a young age that I'm just supposed to say yes, even when I'm supposed to say, even when I want to say no. And so the self-care part of the environmental space, the home environment, and when I go over physical, we're actually going to talk about boundaries. For the financial piece, it's really looking at when people say, I don't have anything to save, coming up with some real practical, loving, and gentle ways to come up with how you can approach and create an intention around that. And so I go into a little bit deep around, especially the financial piece, because a lot of us have trauma connected to finances. Many of us, for me, I didn't sit down and have someone teach me how to work a budget, but my mother did have me balance the checkbook. I was the one in the family that was responsible for helping my mom with certain things. And even to this day, my family members send me documentation. Everybody has that one in the family. In my family, everybody knows we're going to send this to Tanishia. Let's, with my nephew and things that have come up in my family with diagnosis, I get the paperwork. And so for me, I learned to pay a lot of attention to that and to not look at what it was that I needed. And so I had to relearn boundaries and learn how to reparent myself. And I always say parenting is like chewing up the meat and spitting out the bones. So there are some things that my mother did and I still do. And there's certain things that my mother did that I've reparented and I do a little bit different. And this workshop actually is to support women in looking at their pattern. All of us have a pattern. And when we say that we're not able to do something, accomplish something, even in getting in self-care, I always say, what's the pattern? And my work and my ministry is to be the interruption. So to support women in looking at where the pattern is and support them in interrupting their pattern so they don't have to feel stuck and provide them with tools to move on to their next, so that when that pattern shows up again, because it will, I still fall into some of the patterns that I thought, that I healed from and I'm good and that's not going to happen. But it's about knowing what tools I now have access to. And this workshop will cover all of those. And the financial one, I approach very delicately because I know sometimes there's a wound. For me, there's a little girl inside that I need to shore up before I even have the financial conversation, because my inner child, who's 10 years old, remembers what was taking place financially in my family, which is why I'm here now with the thoughts that I have around finances. And it's a dirty word, and it's not. And so now I embrace it. And so I also talk about abundance and prosperity and working from what is it that you do have, because sometimes we operate from a place of lack. And I encourage every woman, if you have not gotten the book yet, get the abundance book. It will change your life. And you are on this journey. Was it 30 days? I'm trying to remember, because I've done a 40-day journey, a 21-day journey. There's so many, but the abundance book is one that taught me that we are the abundance that we're seeking. And whatever it is that we're supposed to be doing, there is something that's already provided within us, our consciousness, our hearts, our spirit, if we take the time to be still. And so this workshop, I'll be actually also going into what does your morning practice look like? And because that makes a difference. And what are some things you can incorporate that feel good on a daily basis without overwhelming yourself? Self-care is not just the bonus is if you're able to get a 60-minute massage, if you're able to go to Elements and Massage Envy. And listen, I just got my pedicure for the first time in a few months. So it's not, and it felt, and my manicure, I should say, and my pedicure. But sometimes I can go months at a time. But I'm getting in self-care in other ways. And so sometimes it's doing a gratitude walk, literally. Sometimes it's walking and praying at the same time. Sometimes it's grabbing the hula hoop or the jump rope. Sometimes it's journaling. And so this workshop will be about creating a practice that can work for you and looking at those 8 arenas that you may decide on. This is one particular area. Maybe it's financial. Maybe you decide that I'm going to do financial and I'm going to do physical. I'm going to do create an intention for each one of those. For some people, it may just be one thing that you walk away with that you say, based on these 8 areas, this is one area I'm going to start focusing on. And that focus may be just sitting with spirit to see what comes up for you about what you need to do as your next step for that particular area of self-care. It'll come up for you. And, and I have to say that I've never entered into a space with this workshop where women, can't really say, I don't know what to do. Something comes up. And, that is my hope for this. And I always take away something different as well, because as we speak it and affirm others, it's repeating back to us. So I always walk away doing something different or making a little shift in my own practice through learning from the other women that will be in this space.
Right. Ooh, that's a lot.
It
And
is. Let's take a
just
breath.
when we talk about it, there's some things coming up for me as we're sitting here talking about it, and I'm like, okay, so I think if you're thinking about coming to this event or you've already purchased your tickets, I think the biggest takeaway from just what we've talked about so far is coming with an open mind, because I think, like I was saying before, I think some people have some misconceptions when it comes to self-care, and I don't know if this would fall into the environmental part of self-care, but I know for me, one of the things that just taking a moment to reflect, I'm thinking of, Black girl magic and the being the strong Black woman, right? And so when I think of those things, at first it's like, okay, yeah, this is empowering and I can do everything and there's nothing that can knock me down. I'm just this resilient being and this superhero, superwoman, whatever. And then I think as I started my own self-care journey internally, I'm like, you know what? I don't know if this is something I wanted to subscribe to anymore, because I think when we talk about, and I think I posted this on one of the social media pages, Black girl magic is not a cure or not
Come
a
on.
substitute for self-care.
That's right.
Right. So I think a lot of people, well, I don't need a life coach. I don't need a therapist. I don't need self-care. I'm fine. But the way that I try to break it down to people is, think of your car, right? Whether it's a brand new car, a car you had since the 1990s, whatever. Think of your car when that engine light comes on, or when you're low on gas. You can still probably get from point A to point B, but is the car operating at its highest level? Is it giving you the top performance? And so I think when you look at it that way, it can kind of challenge your perspective a little bit, because I think a lot of women, when they I'm not trying to go to another self-care event. I'm not, I've heard this, I've been whatever, I get my massages, I get my pedicures and all this stuff. I don't need self-care. But we're
This is
not taking
different.
it's different. It's different. And so for me, a couple of things that I know I did, when I was thinking about the environmental aspect of it, I stopped taking my laptop into my bedroom. That was something I was guilty of. I don't even take it at all. Like, I don't care if it's for fun, for play. I don't take it at all, because I'm like, this is keeping me up at night. And number one. Number two, it's whether for me, it was always work. So I'm like, I don't want this to be the note that I'm going to sleep on. So I stopped doing that. I even became more intentional about the information I was absorbing on social media.
That's a
Because
part of this. That's in the social part. That's the social arena. I'm going to cover that.
yeah,
Absolutely.
because I
That's
think
huge.
it's huge. It's huge because for me, I know and I've shared this publicly before. I'm someone who I made great strides, but I'm still someone who struggles with like body image issues, and what do I look like, or whatever the case might be. So if I am absorbing certain things on social media that continues to keep me in that place of trauma, I have to make a change about that, right?
Come on
So
now.
so when we talk about self-care, it's not just those surface level things. It goes so much deeper. So I encourage you, if you're somebody who's like, well, I don't know where to start, I don't know what self-care looks like for me, I don't have time for self-care, this is an event you need to come to, because we're not going to be doing the fluffy stuff. We're not going to be doing the cutesy stuff. Not saying that those don't have a place in your life at all, but we're not going to be talking about the surface level things. We're going to be diving in a little bit deeper. So if you guys have any questions, because we're almost at the end of our live here, if you guys have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments below, and we'll try to answer them during the live. But I want to ask you, I think we already kind of covered any um, Well, you know what? Let me ask you, what are
Yes.
some, we talked about a couple aspects of self-care. What would you say to someone who's watching this, whether it's live or the replay? What are some things that you would say to a woman who says that they don't need self-care?
Wow. Well, first of all, whew, you said a lot, and you could do this workshop because you've covered a lot. And it's because you've been practicing. And so
Right,
this,
right.
ladies, is about doing the work. And I'm an Iyanla Van Zant baby. She is my spiritual teacher, and I graduated as a certified spiritual life coach, being taught by the best, in the best, by phenomenal teachers. And so a lot of people know, we call her beloved Mama Iya, know
Mhm,
Iyanla Van Zant as the person who really coined the phrase for us. You got to
mhm,
do the work. This is what this Heal Her retreat is about. And so with what was just shared, one thing I do want to say is that superwoman cape, um,
mhm,
that Faith spoke to. Listen, I said years ago, I'm dropping it off at the cleaners. I never picked it back up. It comes with a lack of being able to feel like I can be vulnerable. And so
mhm,
this is about, what is it in your life right now where you can strengthen, and what do you need to look at for yourself that's going to support you? It's not going to be the typical, these are the things that you need to do for self-care. Self-care
mhm.
is about, how are you being? This is about your
Right.
beingness. How are you showing up? So as this weekend is called the Heal Her Retreat, I have one of
Mhm,
my spiritual life coach sisters says, together we're going to get her. If you break the word together down,
mhm,
it comes out to be to get her. So this
mhm,
weekend is about going back to get her.
mhm,
Together we're going back to get her. We're going back to get the little girl who is fearful about making the next step in her life for whatever reason, the woman who
mhm,
feels like she has to be armored up all the time because she's taking care of everything and everybody, the woman who feels like, I don't have no support, I don't rock with females like that, I don't know if this is for me. This is for you. Non-judgmental space. This is practical application about your individual walk and where you are and where you can support yourself and take away tools that can also help support yourself moving forward, but the other people that you're engaged with. This work is this journey that we're on is constant work. I promise you, when you come, you're going to take away things that you've never heard before. And I'm going to tell you why, because what I'm going to be sharing is what I've only learned in the Inner Visions Institute for Spiritual Development. And I've only shared it in spaces that have been a retreat setting. And
mhm,
there are things that are going to be shared around self-care that are not just going to be about, oh, just pull out your journal and write, just get out
mhm,
and take a walk. This here, we're going to go to a whole different level. This is not your typical self-care workshop. And I mean that in a really promising, exciting, creative, fun-filled way. Like, we're going to
mhm,
have fun and we're going to do the work, and it's going to be individually based, an
mhm,
opportunity for you to be introspective and to take away tools that you've never received before, that you'll be receiving for the first time, that you can add. If you're doing good with self-care, great. You've got more tools that you're going to receive to add to your toolbox, because this
mhm,
journey, maybe you don't need it now, but I promise you, if your life is perfect today, things can look different in a few weeks, and you may walk away with something from this Heal Her, we're going to get her to ourselves,
mhm,
that you're going to be able to use at a time when you really need it. Not to mention, there is scientific proof that the more we come together collectively, and that's one of the reasons why depression for women is on the rise, is because we
mhm,
haven't been able to engage the way that we used to. Our sisterhood nights, I mean, my sorority was on just like on moratorium, being in person for almost 2 years, and
mhm,
virtual. Our sisterhood nights were wiped out in terms of being in person. There is
mhm,
scientific evidence that shows the reason why women live longer is that when we're in healthy relationships with other women, there's actually cortisol and pheromones that are released that help us, that help our heart, that go connected to, so the lymphatic nervous system, so the central nervous system, that allow us to breathe better. Breathing is a strong connection to so many other areas of our life. We take it for granted when people say, oh, we're out here doing breath work. No, we all need to be breathing. We hold our breath without even knowing it when we're stressed. This is a moment to come together, to just breathe, to be. This is not about doing, it's about being, and it's about, are you ready to see your becoming on the other side of what you can walk away from in attending this retreat this weekend? And so we're retreating to ourselves. And so even if you have it all together with self-care, come and learn some new things that you can add to your toolbox so that you can shore yourself up and do something different and learn something different and be around like-minded women who have your back. We have each other's back without even knowing each other.
Right.
That's the collective energy of being a woman. We do. And so by us coming together in this space for the first time for the inaugural Heal Her retreat that Black Women of Arizona is coordinating for us. Ladies, I haven't been in a space like this in almost a couple of years. Most of the workshops I've been doing for self-care have been virtual. I've done one that was in person for a very, very small group of women on retreat. So I'm really excited to be able to bring this live in person as we continue the work. We got this, and this is a journey, and it's going to be a beautiful, mind-blowing experience. I promise you that. I promise you that.
Absolutely. I'm so excited for this Saturday because I think we covered so much, but just enough because we're going to be diving into all of these things on this Saturday. So again, you guys, if you have not purchased your tickets, the link is down below in the comments. Once the tickets are gone, you guys, that is it. You know how the BW events go. Don't let's not play these games. If you're coming, you're coming. And if you're coming, you need to purchase your ticket, right? But I'm also going to put Tanishia's information in the comment section below if you're interested in connecting with her outside of this live or after our event on Saturday. Be sure to show her some love. I've really enjoyed this conversation. Even in this small conversation we've had, there's some things that have come up for me that I'm like, okay, I need to look into this a little bit more now. So I appreciate you for coming on. I want to ask you if you have any, because I have your Instagram and your Facebook here in the comments, but any closing message, anything you want to share, if you have any books or any products or services that you're selling.
Yes. And so for ladies that are interested, if you go on my website, beyondthismoment.com, if you're looking for a discovery question or a discovery session and you'd like to explore what your next is, all things spiritual and life coaching and all of that information is on my website, but you can actually get a free discovery session, sign up and check in that way. But for the women that are coming to the retreat, I will be bringing something very special as part of the closure to my workshop, and you'll be given a special free gift in that space. And so for all women that are followers of Black Women of Arizona, you do have the ability to sign on for a discovery session, and we could get you signed up. My calendar is attached. You can go right for it and sign yourself up. I'm hoping to see you all at the retreat, and that's where you'll get the very special gift that I'll be giving to every woman that is coming to participate. And I would say in closing, show up for yourself. Coming to the retreat is an act of self-care. And so just as I would say, I want to thank the queen here, the visionary, with setting this platform up for all of us. But just like I'm going to say, part of your financial self-care might be booking a discovery session with Black Women of Arizona about your next for your business step. And so those are the things that we'll be talking about this week. And it doesn't have to be hard. We don't need to break our hearts more than the world already breaks them. And so this weekend really is about knowing that if you're coming heartbroken, trust yourself enough to know that with a broken heart, you'll always heal. And second, we're all in this space where we're not breaking our hearts. We're going to show up for ourselves. And I encourage you to listen to Natalie Lauren on YouTube, has a song called God Morning. And it really speaks to showing up for yourself every day. So you coming to this workshop this weekend is an act of love, is an act of self-care. Give yourself permission to just be and come into this space where you can be yourself, be you, do you, receive tools, network and engage with other women, and have some things to take forward for your journey, for your next. And I'm excited to welcome you to do that, and encourage you all on my Beyond This One Facebook page. There's affirmations that I put up daily, and same thing for Instagram. And my website is where you can go to do a discovery session. But I'm really hoping I see you this weekend. It's going to be amazing.
Thank you so much for that. We're going to close on that. Give yourself permission. Give yourself permission. So thank you so much for coming on and talking about this. I cannot wait to see you in action on Saturday. Guys, all of the information's in the comments. If you want to connect with her, visit her website, book a call with her, purchase your tickets. Everything is in the comment section here. I'm going to love you and leave you guys. And I will see you guys on Saturday. If you've already purchased your tickets, we'll be sending out all of the information, the informational details and all of that stuff via email. But thank you so much for taking this time out to come on here. And that's it, you guys. So I will see you guys on Saturday, August 27th. And we're going to be in Gold Canyon, Arizona. And we're about to take whether it's the first step or some additional steps, we're going to be taking those steps to start healing her. Right. So thank you guys so much. Thank you again, Ms. Johnson, for coming on. I really appreciate you. And that's it, you guys. I will see you guys on Saturday. Bye.
Bye.